Class of 2022 writes its very first big exam this morning. That's English Paper 1. They're a group of pupils who've been through a lot in the past 2 years, from intermittent schooling due to COVID-19 lockdowns to some of the worst rolling blackouts that the country has ever experienced. So let's discuss this now with the Sadtu spokesperson, that's Xolani Fakude. Xolani, thank you for your time. Always a pleasure talking to you. A big day for matric pupils, English Paper 1 being the first paper. I mean, what support have they received so far, and are you satisfied with it from a basic education government perspective, SGBs, schools, teachers, parents, community, unions as well? Do you think enough was given in terms of support to these young lads?
Thank you very much, Tumelo. Firstly, let me greet you. Let me greet the viewers as well. In our view, the class of 2022 is probably one of the most resilient that we would probably see within our system. I mean, it is a fact, as you're correctly saying in your introduction as well, that this is a class that would have had to deal with one or the other form of interruption since 2020, which means that was since when they were in grade 10. Up to this level. So firstly, we had to deal with the interruptions caused by the lockdown regulations, and moving further than that, as we're in the process of recovering, by the way, then we are now dealing with another pandemic, a pandemic of load shedding, really, that can cause untold levels of anxiety, both for the learners and for the education workers as well. Now, we believe that we really have given it our best shot under the circumstances, both the teachers and as well as the learners as well. I mean, you would also appreciate that we have had a number of curriculum recovery programs. So basically, this includes weekends, study camps, morning classes, afternoon classes, and all of those was just as part of how we can then try to mitigate against some of those interruptions. We wish this class, by the way, the best of luck. And what is necessary also now moving forward is that we should make sure that at least we do not have to deal with the anxiety of possible blackouts when our learners are sitting down, and our teachers as well. Yeah. Also, it is important that we get parental involvement, very necessary. We are asking for the parents, we're asking for guidance to support these learners as they go through this phase. Yeah,
oftentimes, I mean, the spotlight is placed on matric pupils, rightfully so, during this time, but they go through this alongside their teachers, the teachers whom also inherit their performance being almost a reflection of their work as teachers, or at least so we think as the public. But what are the teachers been going through as well alongside this class?
We have been going through a lot. I mean, the levels of anxiety have been quite extreme, untold, especially because, as we are seeing, that we had to deal with the interruptions that were caused by lockdowns, for instance. And right now, we are dealing with load shedding. So indeed, those levels of anxiety have been quite extreme for us as education workers as well. We work under this pressure on a regular basis. That is why it is important also. This is what we must also raise. What is also important is that we should ensure that we put in adequate resources towards education. I mean, the fact of the matter is that we are dealing in one way or the other with austerity measures being brought in through the back door, which then means that it limits some of the resources that we would think we should access, especially for lower grades. Because remember, Tumelo, this is a journey. It's not just about the matric class, the final year, but it is just an over 12-year journey. That is why it is important for us that we have this conversation regularly, and we work in a collaborative manner to make sure that we support both teachers and learners in some of these instances.
So with that being said, Xolani, will Sadtu be partaking in the looming public sector strike?
Well, our members have given us a very clear and categorical mandate to accept the offer that was tabled by the government. We have not convened any meeting as a union to discuss participating in pickets, etc. We have not given that instruction to our members. So it is therefore our understanding and expectation that our members will be where they will be expected to be, especially as we go towards this particular exam period. We also would want also to really send a message to communities and others that no matter what disruptions we may want to have in terms of voicing our concerns as community members, as workers, let us make sure that we protect this space, this phase, as our young people sit for a very important exam in their lives.
Yeah, and I suppose that's the concern, that would this looming public sector strike interrupt matric exams at this particular time, a crucial time indeed. And I just wonder, Xolani, with that being said, does that decision also include other teacher unions? Do they also share the same sentiments, or is it just unique to Sadtu?
Well, it will be very difficult, really, to express the views of the other unions, really. However, what we can tell you is that as public servants in our own right, as education workers affiliated to Sadtu, we do have got a mandate. We've got a very clear mandate to accept what we've fought very hard for, by the way, to get to this particular point. So we are confident on our side that we indeed will be there on time, will be prepared and ready to assist our learners as they sit for the exams.
Right. And just moving forward, Xolani, because, I mean, there's still issues around concerns with whether papers would be leaked or not. That seems to be a recurring concern every single year, leaking of papers, the performance of matriculants towards, rather even in the beginning of next year when we get those results back. That is a concern where we're seeing if every social challenge we've discussed will actually affect their performance. What lies ahead now for you as Sadtu in ensuring that you continue giving that support, you continue working alongside those learners? Because at the same time, there's still some learnings in KwaZulu-Natal in those shelters still affected by those April floods. So what goes ahead now until, at least the end of the matric exams conclude?
You're asking a very important question, Dumelo. And firstly, we are saying as a union that law enforcement agencies must be very ready to deal with anyone really within the system that could be seen facilitating illegal access to question papers and so forth. To us, this is also about the decorum which our profession should maintain. That is why we've got a very, very strict code of conduct, for instance, as a union, as Sadtu, that speaks to how our members, education workers as well, should really behave in the context of the system. But then moving forward, it is not only about some of the more newer challenges like floods and so forth. It is really about how we resource public education. For instance, as we sit here right now, we know that there are some learners that are still exposed to pit toilets in some provinces, for instance. And we are saying that moving forward, we need really to have a very honest and deliberate conversation about how we fund public education. Really, what matters is that we should have an ideal school. What we are doing as a union, also one of our interventions, we've got our campaign called the I Am a School Fan campaign, which is really about mobilizing all sectors of society to play that decisive role that they need to play in as far as education is concerned. Because after all, Dumelo, education is indeed a societal matter.
Right. Well, I appreciate you speaking to me this morning. Xolani Fakude from Sadtu, thank you so much for your time. Also assuring learners of, the support from at least Sadtu's perspective that's ongoing until those matric exams are concluded. Sending a very stern warning for law enforcement to also play their part and apprehend whomever may be involved in, of course, sabotaging the hard work that this group of learners and teachers have put in this past year. All right.